And we are live for AEW Full Gear. We're making our predictions here on the Squared Circle Cycle Babble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, we have 9 matches on this card tonight. 9 matches. And all the big stars are on the show. We got Cody. We got Pac. We got Andrade. We got Malachi Black. Jungle Boy. The Elite. Adam Cole, baby. Chris Jericho. And, of course, the big main event of Hangman Page and Kenny Omega, Ralph. It should be a very good show, to say the least.
It should be a good show. I mean, you mentioned a good majority of the big stars that are going to be on the show. I think you forgot a few. Not all of the big stars are going to be there. No Wheeler Yuta, no Dante Martin. Who else?
No Orange Cassidy.
No Big Show, Paul White, what have you. No
Mark
Mr.
Henry.
Ass. Yeah, so unfortunately, there will be a few fans who will be left disappointed, but at the very least, people can look forward to us making our return. We could look forward to Full Gear making its return to pay-per-view tonight, and it should make for a good one and very interesting because I think the main event tonight is really going to be a big decision. One of the biggest decisions that Tony Khan is going to have to make for the future of AEW. Is he going to go to the future? Could we be looking back to the past? I think we're probably going to discuss a good majority of that here right now.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I did put up a poll in the live chat if you guys want to vote for it. Who walks out AEW champion? Is it going to be Hangman Page? Is it going to be Kenny Omega? So vote, and we'll go over the results at the end of this live stream. But you did bring out the fact that we were gone for a little bit. We took a minor hiatus, and I do want to bring that up because I think it is warranted. I want to explain why we were gone. So we had a family emergency last Wednesday. My father-in-law was rushed to the hospital, and unfortunately, he didn't make it and passed away Monday afternoon at the age of 68. And one of the biggest supporters of this podcast, he always asked about how the podcast was doing. Even when our wives were not big fans of the podcast, he always was like, hey, you never know with this podcast. He was always optimistic. And in fact, these chairs that sit behind me, he bought for the show. I didn't ask him to buy them. He just bought them. And that's the kind of personality he was. My father-in-law was a great guy. He will be truly missed. And that is why we had the little hiatus to, I had to take care of some things and obviously pay our final respects to him and, be there for my wife and my grandson and everyone else in the family. So, and I just want to say for those that went into the community chat and said, family first, and those on Twitter that said, do what you got to do, family first and all that. That there, is why I love doing this podcast, because even when we may not agree on things, when we're just talking about wrestling, at the end of the day, you guys were there to support me, even when we weren't there creating content. So I want to thank everybody for doing that. And, thank you guys. I'm seeing people somehow, you guys are putting it in the chat right now. So I do appreciate it. Thank you guys very much. And this live stream is dedicated to him and all the shows that we're doing dedicated to that man. Very great man. And he will truly be missed. But now that that's out of the way, Ralph, let's get into it. Let's make these predictions.
A lot to get into. So yeah, let's get right into it.
Let's get into it. So the big star of AEW, or at least he tries to make it about him, Cody Rhodes. He's got a tag team match with Pac against Andrade Idolo and Malachi Black. Ralph, Malachi Black's already beaten Cody twice. We already said, should he have lost the first time to Cody Rhodes right before the hiatus? We joked around saying that Malachi Black was buried. Obviously, we don't think that, but still triggered a couple people in the comment section like, oh, no way is he buried. Obviously, because we joke around saying one loss and someone's buried. It says all the time, but This is going to be an interesting match. I'm interested to see how they book this because obviously Andrade and Malachi need the win. Pac could use the win, but Cody's in this match. So what does he do? Does he put the guys over, or does Triple H, Cody Rhodes come into play?
Yeah, and I think the thing that most of us are kind of anticipating, or at least hopefully looking forward to, is a Cody Rhodes heel turn. Because I think most fans right now, I think a majority of the fans that watch AEW are not really supporting Cody Rhodes, especially because some of the guys he's gone over, you can agree with it, you could disagree with it.
Right.
I'm not going to make you pick, but I think most people would agree that Cody Rhodes right now is kind of primed for a heel turn. Can that come to fruition tonight? I think so. I think that there's been little hints here and there, maybe some of the stuff that he said in promos, the fact that he is coming out dressed in all black. I think that was probably the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I think that tonight we're really going to kind of see that come to a head, and whether that means they end up losing and he turns on Pac or something like that, I think that's going to be the lasting impression from this match. This match itself, it kind of seems like it may have been a couple of different storylines kind of thrown together to really bring a bunch of those to a head and to end those so they can kind of go their own separate ways. And I think that's going to be the pivotal moment where Cody Rhodes turns heel. At least I would hope so.
Now, we did see involvement with FTR in this storyline, as well as FTR, were basically rented out by MJF for Andrade, and they were also part of this, attacking Cody Rhodes, and Cody Rhodes coming for the save. And, this is where you got to ask yourself, does FTR get involved in this? And is this where they make the pivot to have Cody and MJF rekindled? And that's why we have FTR in this feud. And does FTR get involved in this match somehow?
I'm sure they'll get involved. I don't think we're going to see MJF and Cody just yet. I think that there has to be more to it than just kind of transitioning back. Because then you would probably assume that if that were to happen, Cody would have to still be face. And at that point, you're really kind of forcing it and laying it on thick. I do think that Cody is going to turn heel. I'm hoping it's tonight. If it's not, in the near future, and I don't see that happening if him and MJF are going to go back into their feud, which was, one of the more memorable ones from the beginning of AEW.
All right, I'm going to put it out there. If you guys want to see the heel turn of Cody Rhodes tonight on Pac, give this video a like right now. Right now, as I'm looking at the dashboard, we have 18 likes. Let's see if we could get that to like close to, we'll say 35 for now, just at the start of this. So 35 likes before we make our prediction, or at the end of this video, if you want to see Cody Rhodes heel turn. So Ralph, Cody Rhodes, Pac, Andrade, Malachi. Who you got?
Andrade, Malachi.
Is it because of Cody's heel turn, or is it because outside interference somehow?
I think that Cody's heel turn, I don't think it's going to play out in the ultimate finish of the match. I could see FTR maybe getting involved in that, being a little more influential in the finish. So I'm still going to stick with Malachi and Andrade on this. Whether it's clean or interference, I think they're the ones that need to win.
Yeah, I think this will go to Malachi and Andrade just because I think they need the win more. Yes, Pac does need a win, but he did have an amazing match Wednesday with Dax Harwood, got the win there. Cody, I just feel like he just needs to start putting people over. And I know some people question, why does he got to put people over all the time? Because he doesn't need the wins. That's the thing. Unless this is, again, him starting to go towards a push for the AEW World Championship. I don't know, but we'll see. Another match that, you know what? They did a really good job pivoting this storyline from All Out, obviously with Christian Cage and Kenny Omega challenging for the World Championship. Adam Cole appearing at the end of All Out. Bryan Danielson appearing at the end of All Out. And they really had this Jurassic Express and Christian Cage versus the Superkliq aspect of this storyline go from All Out to tonight. And I think it's been very good. Also, thank you to the homie JR for subscribing to the Squared Circle Psychobabble. Thank you very much for subscribing. And if anyone else, click that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications. Back to what I was saying. They've done a decent job focusing this really on the two guys that need to be focused in this storyline. and that is Adam Cole and Jungle Boy.
Okay. So this is where I will have to bring up a few things here. So, Michael, I bought a box of popcorn and perhaps a bottle of whiskey and maybe a cigar for later tonight. Do you want to know why I bought those items?
Well, it's an American Rebel cigar to support Cody. The popcorn is Big E's popcorn, so you could reenact the meme that goes around Twitter all the time. And the whiskey, I got nothing for the whiskey, but
the whiskey's cowboy shit. You would
there
hope.
you go. Okay, there you go. Yes, the whiskey's cowboy shit.
All right, so I am really looking forward to this match because on paper and the people that are involved in, especially considering I'm a huge Adam Cole fan, have been for years. I am really looking forward to this match. Now, I bought those items as essentially a backup plan because if there is any sort of goofy comic relief SNL type skit stuff that's going to be involved in this match, rather than just having a really good wrestling match for the people that are going to be involved in this match, I'm going to take a piss break. I'm going to exit stage left, and I'm going to pretty much spend my time entertaining those things rather than entertaining a match that is silly, because we've seen
Ralphie Cornette is back, ladies and gentlemen. Ralphie Cornette is back.
I've said this a million times. You know where I stand on comedy and pro wrestling. It has its place. You know, Orange Cassidy, okay, we've been over that a million times. I don't mind comedy and wrestling. As a matter of fact, I like some of the things that Dan Lambert does. He's a good character that can kind of be that serious / comedic relief jackass type guy, especially when you have Jericho, because Jericho is a guy that can also kind of play that middle role. But for this, especially when you consider some of the seriousness that's been involved in the feud between these two groups, they need to go out there and just put on a good wrestling match and not focus on the comedy that maybe sometimes comes with the Young Bucks and unfortunately Adam Cole over the last couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to the match, but you know, like I said, I do have a backup plan kind of lined up just in case.
And if for some reason that match does go a little super comedic or whatever, which I don't think it will, because usually they save that stuff for BTE. It sometimes blends into Dynamite, but when it comes to the pay-per-views, especially like the Young Bucks typically get serious. And that's kind of where they show off, like, all right, everyone makes fun of us. We're not this serious tag team. We're not this good tag team. But then all of a sudden, boom, you know, they have great matches. And what's great about this match is we know who's going to officiate this match. It's going to be Rick Knox. And he doesn't have to worry about enforcing any rules because it's falls count anywhere. There are no rules.
Yeah. And even if there were rules, I told you, I don't hold these matches in AEW when it's three or more tag. I don't hold them to the traditional wrestling rule standard because it's not what they're going to put an emphasis on. They don't focus on that stuff. They want to get their spots in. They want to have fast-paced rule book thrown to the side type matches. And I don't really go into it with the expectation that they are going to follow that anymore. So for what I'm expecting, as long as they can go out there and deliver what I think that they're all capable of, I'll be happy. Like I said, whiskey is in the freezer right now, just in case.
Right. I totally get it. What whiskey is it, by the way? Is it? I'm not a whiskey connoisseur, but is it Jack Daniels?
Yeah, that's as simple as it gets.
Yeah. Okay. So I think, given the people in this match now, Adam Cole, what we've seen in NXT when he has no holds barred matches and unsanctioned matches or whatever, he does a really good job with those matches. Sometimes people can argue they go a little bit long. We know the Young Bucks tend to have long matches. Let's play over and under.
Oh, God. Okay.
20 minutes. Over under.
Including entrance or excluding? Just match bell to bell?
Bell to bell.
Over.
You're going over 20 minutes.
Have the Young Bucks had a pay-per-view match that's been under... Have they had a match that's under 30 minutes on a pay-per-view? I don't think so. The last couple pay-per-views have been long pay-per-views.
Right. And they always have a long match. It's either one of the longest matches of the night. I have to look back and see. I think if they didn't hit 20 minutes, it was like 18 or 19 minutes. Like, they always get time. And obviously, maybe it's because they're EVPs. Maybe it's just because they don't know how to condense their damn matches. Even on Dynamite, they always have 20-minute long matches. They can never have a short match.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely foresee this going over 20 minutes easily.
Yeah. So who wins?
I think that the Young Bucks and Adam Cole are going to win.
So a win for the Superkliq? Yeah. I don't know. I feel like this could be a crowning moment for Jungle Boy to get the pin on somebody. Not necessarily Adam Cole, but maybe if he pins Nick Jackson and Nick Jackson takes the fall, maybe they do something where Brandon Cutler or Michael Nakazawa gets involved and that costs them the win, whatever the case may be. But I think this would be huge if Jungle Boy gets the pin, gets the win. And I'm going to go with Christian Cage and Jurassic Express for the win here with Jungle Boy getting the pin.
Okay.
All right. Speaking of falls count anywhere and matches with no rules, our next match is basically the same thing, just with a different name. The Minneapolis Street Fight. The Inner Circle with the Men of the Year, Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page versus American Top Team. It is Andre Arlovsky, Junior Dos Santos, and fat face dipshit Dan Lambert. Like I've said this a lot. Dan Lambert is good at what he does, but this feud is not helping the people it should. I feel like, and I texted you this before we started today, this feud is midlife crisis. It's focusing on two guys in their 50s, Chris Jericho and Dan Lambert, sucking out the youth of those that should be focused. This should be focusing on Ethan Page, Scorpio Sky, Santana Ortiz, Sammy Guevara, and for the most part, they've been secondary or even tertiary or even worse. They've not been the focal point of this feud. And maybe that's where it leads to, where there's a tag team feud with Proud and Powerful and Men of the Year. But this has been a horrible feud led by Lambert and Jericho, which they're good at what they're doing, but this feud is not good.
Yeah, I got to say that I am kind of disappointed in where this has kind of gone, because I do agree. I think that Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page proved probably a month ago that he can be a guy that can go in the ring, command the room, and draw a ton of heat. I think that he's one of the more underutilized guys in AEW right now. Now, they can change all of that. But my fear, I really think that American Top Team and the Men of the Year, I think they're losing tonight because it's kind of setting the stage. I just don't foresee a situation where, Dan Lambert is going to come out on top with his team. I think that he's going to be made to look like a fool, probably. You'll probably get some comedic stuff in this match for sure. I've mentioned on here multiple times, I don't like the fact that sometimes they utilize guys who are going to go out there and make the knock from a non-wrestling fan is that wrestling looks fake. I think tonight we're going to see a lot of forced pro wrestling spots with guys like Junior Dos Santos and Andre Arlovsky, and it's going to look really, really bad. And I think that the match itself is probably going to have its moments. I think that Dan Lambert will probably be made to look like a fool, but ultimately I don't see this doing, win or lose, I don't see this doing anything for Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, which is really unfortunate.
Or on the same side, this doesn't help Sammy Guevara, who's the TNT champion, and because he's in part of the Inner Circle, has done nothing since winning the TNT championship. Yeah, they had a match with Ethan Page, but then it just turned into something else. It was an overbooked stipulation crap. If Sammy Guevara loses, he's got to break up with the Inner Circle. And it's like, you already know what's going to happen when that happens.
Yep.
Hate that. I hate when they book matches when you're like, you already know based on how they book stipulations. You're like, that's where the match is going. It's really annoying. And it makes, I get it. They're trying to create drama, but at the same time, we know where this is heading. And then, of course, on top of it, the go-home angle, they're all talking about how Dan Lambert's going to pin Chris Jericho. So we all
tap
know
him out. Tap him out.
No, was it tap? No, he had him
because he had him in the right. He said he.
So
you could be right.
So he said on Saturday he was going to pin him.
Okay.
But Wednesday they were going to tap him out, which in wrestling, it's worse to be tapped out than it is to be pinned because you have to force the person to say, I quit in a submission. Whereas all you got to do is incapacitate somebody for a 3 count. So they always say the submission is the worst loss to take. So they booked that backwards. But again, telling this story, they're just saying Jericho's pinning Dan Lambert. That's the win.
Well, there's two things that I do want to point out. First of all, I do want to give credit to AEW because at least they're trying something different to tap into an audience that may not be that interested in pro wrestling. I don't think it's going to work. I don't think guys like Junior Dos Santos and Andre Arlovsky are going to convince anybody to tune into a pro wrestling pay-per-view that wouldn't normally buy it. Mm-hmm. Like if you're a hardcore UFC fan or you watch MMA regularly, I don't think that you're going to buy this just to see Dan Lambert or any of those guys compete. But I give them credit because, they're at least trying something different and outside of the box.
Right.
I do want to point out, and I texted you this, the line of the night on Dynamite this past Wednesday was Dan Lambert putting Jericho in the walls of Jericho, getting on the mic and saying, it's called a Boston Crab. And I say that because growing up, I think I remember, was it Rick Martel who used to use the Boston Crab? So, I'm a little bit of an older wrestling fan, and I thought that was good. So I think that Dan Lambert's good in his role. I think that Jericho obviously is good in his role. I just think that unfortunately this feud is focusing too much on Dan Lambert and American Top Team and not so much the Men of the Year.
Right. And I understand, like, obviously outside celebrities and mixed martial artists or whatever, it helps or tries to help bring a mainstream audience. We saw it at WrestleMania with Bad Bunny. We see it all the time with WWE. This is AEW's version of it. They've had like Giannis Antetokounmpo on an episode of Rampage once. So stuff like that, so I understand where they're coming from. They're trying to get pay-per-view buys, right, and that I'm fine with. But does it really help the people that it needs to help, which is the Men of the Year, Proud and Powerful, Sammy Guevara? I don't think it does. So with that said, I'm going with Inner Circle winning. Jericho pins Dan Lambert.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. All right. I do want to get to a super chat here that just came in while we were talking here. Thank you very much to Zonin. I apologize if I got this wrong, but he's actually got a lot here. So let me see if I can pull the whole thing up. Okay. Here we go. Here is the chat. Allegedly, Mox would have turned heel and defeated Daniel Bryan, setting up Mox versus Hangman. How do you think fans would have received Mox's heel turn?
How would the fans receive it? Well, I guess ultimately, if you're turning somebody heel, you'd want them to feel shocked.
Mm-hmm.
I think that they were kind of laying it on pretty thick. I think Mox was probably primed for. I don't know if you can consider a heel turn. I think it would just be more or less like positioning him to be like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, like a no nonsense, like go out there. I'm here to wrestle. I'm here to win, kick some ass, and business as usual. So
right.
I don't know if you would call it a full heel turn.
Right. No, I don't know if it would be, because he kind of been hinting at, it's more like a tweener turn, I guess, if that's even a thing. But yeah, I think that was probably the route they were going. And maybe this is where Moxley could give Hangman a good, solid first defense. But obviously, mental health and families first. So, that's what it is. But I think fans could have reacted pretty well to that. But he also could have gotten a lot of heat depending on how they execute the heel turn. But, we'll wait till he comes back. But someone that is back, and speaking of Moxley, I think this is a good segue to our next match. The two arguably best promos in AEW right now, Eddie Kingston and CM Punk. They only needed one segment on Rampage to sell the shit out of this match. And I know we don't do Rampage reviews, and we were going for our hiatus or whatever, but Ralph, this was an awesome segment.
Yeah.
Who won it? Kingston or Punk?
Who won it? I don't know if you could say anybody won it.
I put a poll up, and I think it was like maybe 75% saying Kingston won. And I you know what? If you thought Kingston won the segment where they exchange promos, give us a like on this video. 36 likes. Let's get it to 50. 50 likes. If you thought Eddie Kingston did better in the promo than CM Punk.
I think Eddie Kingston did the heavy lifting. I mean, really, I think he probably had 75% of the time on the mic. I think they both made really good points. I don't know how true any of this truly is, but at the very least, if it's fabricated, if it's partially true, it has me invested. And I think this kind of speaks to a point I made when we first started recording this podcast, we were talking about, a lot of times fans will demand long-term storytelling or long-term booking and all those types of things. And I think sometimes that fans are, once they get what they want, or, sometimes fans can be, can easily tap out on a storyline if they feel like it's losing steam. Like, for example, somebody posted something on Twitter. They said, what do you think of this, going back before, Dynamite this past week? What do you think of the feud between Hangman and Omega? And I said, I feel like it's losing steam, because at that point, I felt like the high point of that feud was when Hangman had that cowboy shit promo. Now, with this, I think we all have recency bias, which is, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because if you can build a feud and get people interested in like 2 weeks build, it's good, because one, you got the fans invested, and two, you don't really run the risk of a feud being stretched out over the course of X amount of months and it losing steam. And I think that's what we're seeing here with these two. Right. Especially because the fans are so invested in both of them.
Right. I saw some people comment on Twitter, on, social media, even on our community page in that poll, as Prime Killer put up here in the chat. Kingston was Punk in 2011. Punk is Cena in that feud. Do you think there's parallels to that, given that segment? You saw the parallels too?
And I'm so glad that he made that comment, because the first promo I thought of was the first thing I thought of when I saw that interaction between Eddie Kingston and CM Punk was going back to when Punk, I think, was chasing the title still, but he just had done the pipe bomb, and he told Cena to his face, "You are what you hate. You're the New York Yankees." And it was an all-time one of the better moments for CM Punk's kind of run, an interaction with Cena. And if you haven't seen it, I know most people that follow our podcast aren't necessarily WWE fans, but worth going back and watching it, because I think it helps kind of set the table for exactly what happened between Kingston and Punk.
Right. No, I totally agree. But I know a lot of people just said, oh, Kingston, easily won that war of promos or whatever. But you got to give credit to CM Punk, because the story was told so perfectly, in the way he has been doing his promos. Like, a lot of the ones that people are loving right now with great promos like MJF or Eddie Kingston, they're very loud. They're, they say things that cause controversy and whatever. But CM Punk, he kept his tone down, like not Jake Roberts level, but still, like, he kept his composure for the most part. He got a little agitated, and when he was calling Eddie Kingston a bum, but that was like the seasoned veteran going against the guy that's just new to the mainstream scene, only being in AEW for a little over a year. That played into a role until Eddie Kingston said the one thing that Punk didn't want to hear, and that was go back and quit for another 7 years, and that triggered him.
Yeah, and go ahead, finish.
No, I was just going to say, and that created the pull-apart brawl, and that's what really showed. And Punk really has to get credit for setting up Kingston for the way he reacted. Like, this is, whether it was scripted, whether it was semi-scripted, whether it was completely improv, it doesn't matter, because these two delivered great promo and great conversation. It was just like, I hate you, you hate me, let's fight. And that's all the story was. And like the simplicity of this feud is like missing in professional wrestling sometimes, because people just want these long ass stories that have this and that and turns and whatever, when it just needs to be this.
And it's simple, but it's complex at the same time, because at its core, you have this weird almost assumption. And like the thing that's driving Eddie Kingston is the fact that he felt like CM Punk looked down on him. And Punk was the guy that, when in WWE, he was the guy that I think some people, maybe Vince, and I'm not saying in real life, I'm saying maybe from the storytelling perspective, he was not supposed to be the guy. He ended up being the guy in spite of everything, because of the pipe bomb and everything else. But now the roles are kind of reversed, where Eddie Kingston is essentially the guy on the come up, and Punk is the made man. Punk's the guy that walked away from wrestling, that everybody kind of wanted to see come back, and Tony Khan was able to get him to come back. And the roles are kind of reversed here. So even though it's simple at its surface, at its core, there is some complexity between the relationship between Punk and Eddie Kingston. So the one thing that I think is a little obvious as far as like what's going to happen tonight. Eddie Kingston seems to be the guy that as long as he goes out there and performs, he's happy. And he said pretty much flat out, I'm just going there to beat you up. I don't care if I lose. And I think Punk's going to win. I think Eddie Kingston's going to look good. I think this match is going to be really good. But I don't see Eddie beating him unless.
Here's the question you got to ask yourself. And I think a lot of these matches tonight have that same question. And that is, who needs the win more? Does CM Punk need the win over Eddie Kingston more than Eddie Kingston needs the win over CM Punk? And I think, obviously, Eddie Kingston benefits a hell of a lot more beating CM Punk than CM Punk beating Eddie Kingston, especially with the storyline that CM Punk has kind of been having where he's still trying to learn how to wrestle again after being out for 7 years and having to have, competitive matches against guys like Matt Sydal and Bobby Fish and Darby Allin, who have, gotten a lot of experience in that time that Punk was gone. And here's Eddie Kingston, who's not really here for a wrestling match. He's here to beat the living crap out of you. And that might benefit Eddie Kingston. So I actually think Kingston's going to win this match.
Yeah, and it kind of depends because it goes back to like what are Punk's goals? Like if you have listened to some of the things Punk has talked about why he's come out of retirement because he likes what he sees in AEW, the good young guys, up and comers, and Eddie Kingston isn't necessarily young, but this is his first opportunity on a much bigger scale if you don't count his time in Impact. But Eddie is definitely the guy that can benefit more from a win here. Punk beating him, I think, is essentially assumed. And I think if Eddie Kingston does win, that will do wonders for him. And it will speak to the fact that, Punk is there because he wants to help the people that are either up and coming or younger. So,
and if Eddie Kingston is like a heel now, or, I don't know if he ever was a face, but I guess he was a face with Moxley. But if he turns heel again, imagine how obnoxious he could be and get heat just for saying he beat CM Punk for the first time in 7 years. That.
Yeah, I think that this feud specifically speaks to, because they've kind of gone down this road, but also haven't stayed true to this. I don't know if it was Cody or Tony who said it back when AEW first came into fruition, but they said, we're going to let the fans choose. Like, we're not going to necessarily have clearly defined heels, clearly defined faces, but, Eddie
that
Kingston.
Was Cody.
Okay, I don't think Eddie Kingston is clearly a face or a heel, and I don't think Punk's certainly more of a face, but I think that, in this feud specifically, I think that you're going to see that the fans are actually probably going to be a little more divided than we think tonight.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a let's go Eddie CM Punk thing in this match. It's going to be very interesting, but I'm going with Kingston and you're going with Punk, right?
There's got to be an upset tonight, and if there's going to be an upset tonight, I think Eddie wins. So I'm gonna say Eddie Kingston wins too.
All right. So let's head to our next match, Ralph. It is another great promo in AEW. Some people say he's the best promo in AEW, and that's MJF going up against Darby Allin. And honestly, I think this has had the best build heading into Full Gear. This has been very good from the get-go. The whole who's going to break who mentally has been great. I think their interactions have been great. And MJF, doing what he does best, finding that line to cross and just saying 5 miles down that line, he's just going to cross right over it and burn it right down. He makes references to Lex Luger, calling Boston women fat and ugly and doesn't want to deal with them. Saying Darby Allin should have died with his uncle, some really, really deep crap, and I'm excited for this match. I really am. And like this one here, I think is a coin toss. I really think it's a coin toss because you got obviously the 4 pillars, 2 of the 4 here. Who wins? I mean, obviously whoever wins is obviously going to be catapulted into the AEW World title picture, I think. But is it Darby? Is it MJF? Because they're both very important.
I think that as good as I feel this feud has been, I think that there's still a lot more that they can do with this, especially considering that they are trying to build this as one of the more personal feuds with some of the things MJF has said and him trying to push Darby Allin to this point where he, just crumbles or goes and becomes this person that he's not at his core. It's funny because I was listening to I think it was You Shoot, and they did a podcast with RVD, and bottom line was RVD. They were trying to literally backstage. They were saying to RVD we want you to get more fired up in matches. We want you to get to this point where you just lose it, and flip out. And he said, "That's not who I am. I'm not going to do that. That's not my character. I'm not going to get to that point where I essentially hulk up in a match." I still think that they can push the envelope a little bit more, especially with MJF, to get Darby to get to this point where, I don't know, ultimately he loses it or he becomes this person that he truly isn't. So I think MJF wins because I think that this feud itself still has money left in it. I don't think this is the end of the feud.
No, I don't think so at all. But the question is, you got Sting, you got Wardlow. Do they get involved in this match too? And if Wardlow gets involved, does that kind of divert the feud now to MJF and Wardlow? And this is the moment that they finally pull the trigger on that separation.
They haven't really, as far as I've seen, unless I've overlooked it, they haven't really teased the tension between MJF and Wardlow in the past, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, but before that, there was still there was that segment where Sting came out and they were joking that Sting was going to come out. I think that was the last time we saw a little bit of tension because Sean Spears was joking around and Wardlow wanted nothing to do with it.
Right. I think that was a couple weeks, 2 weeks ago, I think, maybe. I know Wardlow had a match.
Right.
Past Dynamite, so.
Right, and he crushed Wheeler Yuta and that did nothing for this particular feud. But could the other thing happen too, where breaking him mentally means turning on Sting, and Darby Allin turns on Sting?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Because at the beginning of this feud, that's really what MJF kind of told him. He's like, "I can break you," and I think that we haven't really seen that. Darby Allin has still been Darby Allin to me. We haven't seen him do anything kind of out of character. I'm still waiting for that moment where we get that payoff where MJF gets him to crack. Or maybe Darby doesn't crack because he's going to rise above it or whatever. And we'll see tonight. I think tonight is going to tell us whether they're going to keep this feud ongoing or just bring it to an end.
All right. Well, it's a possibility that they can extend this feud one way, and they've done this before, but unrealized thoughts, throwing it out there. Time limit draw. Do we get a time limit draw between these two?
No, I don't think so.
So we're getting a clear winner. Who do you think it is?
I'm going to go with MJF.
I'm going with Darby. Darby's going to win this one. But now we head to the championship matches for the evening. Our first one, the AEW Tag Team Championship, the Lucha Brothers versus the FTR/Super Ranas/ part of Andrade Idolo, part of the Pinnacle, whatever you want to call them. This is going to be a fun match because you have the two completely different dynamics where the Lucha Brothers, they follow Lucha Brother tag team rules and FTR follows traditional tag team rules. Let's hope Rick Knox is not the referee for this match because, things will not be enforced whatsoever. But this is going to be a fun match, I think. And if what Dax Hardwood did with Pac is any indication of how this match is going to go as far as quality, this could quietly steal the night.
I think FTR might be, both individually and as a tag team, I think they get a lot of high praise, but it's not like people, I just don't know if people hold them in the same, talk about them the same way like they'll talk about Kenny Omega when he has a match, or I know they have good matches a lot of the time, but
they don't flip.
They're just solid, man. They're so good. The psychological aspect of matches, the way that they can really just adapt to any type of style to make it a really good, interesting match. Even going back to their matches with Proud and Powerful, I don't know if they truly got the credit that they deserved for some of those matches. And, I know people really just kind of automatically say, oh yeah, they're the best tag team in pro wrestling, but I think that they should get a lot more credit than I think they should get talked about a lot more than they really do. I think we're going to see tonight, again, see them adapt to the style of the Lucha Brothers, and it's going to be one of the better matches of the night.
Right. And I think part of the reason why they don't get that credit that they probably deserve is just because in AEW, I mean, if there's a criticism to give to AEW, it's that they haven't really pushed FTR as the best tag team. Yeah, they had the tag team championships for a while, but then they lost them to the Young Bucks, and then they just kind of disappeared for a while. They weren't a focal point. And then all of a sudden, they're the number one contenders for the tag team championships because they beat the Lucha Brothers for the AAA tag team championships. So I don't know. Like, I agree with you. They definitely need to be more focused, and they definitely need to be highly regarded. Like, everyone knows they're one of, if not the best tag team in professional wrestling right now, but AEW hasn't really showcased them as such. And that kind of, I'll admit, it bothers me a little bit. And I don't even know, maybe because they got the AAA tag titles, that means the Lucha Brothers are going to get the win back and it's 50-50 booking, which I know everybody loves, but I mean, I feel like FTR needs to win tonight. They need to win.
Yeah, here's what I think. I think that a lot of times on, like, let's say social media as an example, use Twitter as an example, because that's where people I think are most vocal about pro wrestling and their opinions, where people will have little back and forth debates. If I were to say, or if anybody were to say that Kenny Omega is not as good as people say he is, people get really offended by that, and they will go back and forth, whether it's Dave Meltzer, Jim Cornette. People get really passionate about that. I think that there's like a unanimous feeling that FTR is really good, but just people don't get as passionate about those guys when they talk about how good they really are. Like, I feel people are more willing to go to bat for somebody like a Kenny Omega and say like, oh, he's the best in the world and this and that. And people are just like, FTR, yeah, they're really good. We know that, we acknowledge it, but they just don't get the credit I think that maybe they deserve sometimes, because whether it's single matches or tag matches, they're solid all of the time.
Right. No, they are. I don't think FTR has had a bad match. Either Dax Harwood in singles competition or them as a tag team. I've yet to see them have a bad match. In NXT, in AEW, in WWE, they just don't have a bad match. Are they like best tag team matches ever? Maybe not, but you know, at least 8 out of 10 all the time. And like they are definitely one of the best tag teams. And then you got the Lucha Brothers, who the Lucha Brothers to me are two really good luchador wrestlers. To me, the two best luchadors, at least in North America, at least on American television. But as a tag team, they might be one of the worst tag teams because they wrestle 2 singles matches. They don't wrestle a tag team match in the traditional sense. They do all their spots, they do all that, but it's really like 2 singles matches in a tag team match. So I honestly think if I'm Tony Khan, FTR has to win this match and really make them the focal point of the tag team division and show why they are the best tag team.
And I mean, really, when you think about it, the highlight of Penta and Phoenix, their title run here, I would imagine, is the win itself. I can't really think of anything they've done that's all that memorable since, like, after they've won. I agree. I think FTR needs to win. I think they should win.
They should. And honestly, like, the tag team division, since the Lucha Brothers have won, there really hasn't been much of a focal point in the tag team division itself. And that's one of the things that AEW like prides themselves on as opposed to WWE is we got the best tag team division.
Someone just asked the question, Revival versus DIY was legendary. I say yes, especially when you consider NXT.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That essentially led to Gargano and Ciampa's split, which was one of the better feuds, but you know.
Right.
That's that.
Right. But you know, put FTR with any tag team. Young Bucks, I said last year, Young Bucks versus FTR was the match of the year last year. Even, I'm pretty sure the Lucha Brothers and FTR had a match last year. Yes, they did, and it was a good match. They don't have bad matches. Like, FTR has, like, I'm sorry. They have to win this match. They have to, and if they don't, it's a missed opportunity for Tony Khan and AEW. But I understand why if they want to extend, you know, the Lucha Brothers tag team reign because they don't want to have short reigns or whatever, but I'm sorry, like, either do something with the Lucha Brothers or just give the titles to FTR.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah. So we're both going with FTR winning, or do you are saying they should win, but Lucha Brothers win?
No, I'm gonna say FTR.
FTR wins. All right. This next match, before we get to the prediction, I'm gonna rant a little bit, Ralph, because this match should not be happening at all. There's no reason for this match to be happening. Britt Baker versus Ty Conti for the AEW Women's Championship. Okay? Here's why it shouldn't be happening. On an episode of Rampage, we had a triple threat match between the then number one ranked wrestler, Thunder Rosa, Jade Cargill, who I believe at the time was number 2, and Nyla Rose, who I believe was number 4. Who won that match?
Wasn't that your girl, Jade?
Jade Cargill won that match. And who did she pin to win that match?
Oh God, Thunder Rosa, maybe?
She pinned Thunder Rosa. She pinned the number 1 ranked wrestler to win that match. So they give her the number one ranking for the women's division. Not even 2 weeks later, Ty Conti just comes out of nowhere and jumps her in the rankings. Why? Why?
Rankings matter, man.
But
They
how?
said that from day one.
But how? How do they matter? Could someone please
I'm
explain
being
to me?
sarcastic.
I know you are, but someone explain to me how these damn rankings work. Because back in May, when we did the Double or Nothing predictions, we talked about Orange Cassidy reigning for going for the AEW World Championship, and it was, he's undefeated. Okay. Jade Cargill's undefeated.
Yeah.
Oh, but I'm like, well, and then she also pinned the number 1 ranked wrestler. Oh, but it wasn't a number 1 contenders match. Tell me it's a number 1 contenders match without saying it's a number 1 contenders match. She pinned the number 1 ranked wrestler. Jade Cargill should be in this match tonight, not Ty Conti. I'm sorry. And the only reason they put Ty Conti in this match is so that she can take the pin so that Jade Cargill could get more reps because she's not ready yet for her to eventually beat Britt Baker for the World Women's Championship. That's the only reason Ty Conti's in this match. The only reason. Rankings don't matter. Wins and losses don't matter. It's just, poof, let's just throw her at number 1 for no damn reason. Someone explain to me in the live chat how these rankings work.
What's her record? Is it let me guess, she has a bunch of wins over people on like Dark or Elevation or something. Yeah, of course. That's the same thing that happened with Orange Cassidy. I've said this a million times.
At least Orange Cassidy was undefeated, so you had some kind of cop-out with it he has the best winning percentage. Fine. But then you can't go, it's the quality of wins. Jade pinned the number 1 ranked wrestler. You can't get any better than that unless you pin the damn champion.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. And I think, that speaks to Tony Khan. I mean, he's still relatively new to the business and stuff like that. Like, if you didn't want Jade to have that match and she wasn't ready for it, you shouldn't have put her in a position where, okay, we're going to have you win, but you're not ready, so we're going to automatically take you out of this position. Right. I mean, Ty Conti, everybody talks about how improved she is. Sure, she's improved, but is she necessarily right? Like, realistically, let's say she wins tonight. Is she ready to carry the title? I would probably say no.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I see about this. I'm seeing people in the live chat, and some of the responses are, Ty Conti is hot. That's why she's in the match. And I don't know if you mean hot in like physical attractionness or actually winning a bunch of matches hot, but I guess I can agree on both those terms. And of course, Jade is going to win the TBS championship. She's undefeated, guys. You could have taken Ty Conti and given her the TBS championship. Like, I know I should probably calm down, but I've had this bottled up for weeks when I saw Ty Conti just magically jumped over Jade Cargill.
You know what this comes down to, though? You know why people don't like Jade. It's because she's green.
Goldberg.
Yes. And
she's Goldberg.
Because a majority of the AEW fans and loyalists who are going to say, well, she can't have good matches. Not everybody has to have these long, drawn-out 15, 20-minute classic matches. Like, sometimes you need a big, dominant force, somebody who's just going to go out there and kick some. I saw the same thing. Oh, why is Wardlow dominating Wheeler Yuta? Because Wardlow looks like somebody that can kick somebody's ass. Like what is Wheeler Yuta going to go and do for them? Is he going to be the next big star? Maybe. I mean, I doubt it, but maybe he'll be like the next big star for AEW.
Not for nothing.
If I had to bet,
not for nothing, but Wheeler Yuta also took like a 15-second squash to Moxley like 2 weeks before. You think Wardlow?
But that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, I get it. Like, people are upset. Okay, well, they're treating her like a Goldberg. So what? So what? You need somebody that's going to go out there and be this menacing force that you either want to see lose or win. God forbid they put somebody on a win streak that just goes out there and wins matches in an impressive fashion. Like, wrestling has always had figures like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and what it's going to come down to, if you ask people why they don't like Jade, I'm sure they're going to say, oh, well, you know, she's limited. She's green.
Right.
She's this,
right.
she's that.
And I just want to say this before we actually make the prediction. Someone said on the live chat here, let me see if I can pull the whole thing up. Probably not. But anyway, it says, what a rant. Ty has a winning streak, and the match with Ty and Britt was announced as the bracket for the TBS tournament was already set up. Do your homework before ranting without reason. No. It has a reason, because what came first? Jade Cargill pinning the number 1 ranked wrestler, or the brackets for the TBS championship? The answer is Jade Cargill pinning Thunder Rosa.
Listen, the rankings
that makes sense.
AEW put themselves in this position because they said from day one that the rankings are going to matter. Wins and losses are going to matter. The rankings either matter or they don't. And what AEW conveniently does when they want to work around their ranking system is they have these tournaments. Okay, yeah. They matter or they don't. If you want to have these matches just for the sake of having the match and doing what's entertaining and doing what the fans want, then okay, get away with do away with the ranking system. But you can't have it both ways, because in wrestling, the thing that matters more than anything is the perception, the way that the fans perceive what's happening. And if you have people that are winning matches on Dark and Elevation and all these other obscure on YouTube and all this other shit that nobody's watching, Dynamite is your premier show. If it's happening on Dynamite, it's important. The fans should care about it. Not everybody has all this time to invest in the product, on what's happening, on being the elite. And oh my God, this happened in Japan 9 years ago. I don't care. If it's important, it needs to happen on Dynamite.
I agree.
Either the rankings matter or they don't. And if they don't matter and you just want to put on the best matches, whether that's Punk and Bryan Danielson or Omega and Christian, whatever, do away with the rankings and just admit that you're out there to have the fans be happy for the matches.
Right.
Stop working around them.
Someone just said, if you pin the number 1 ranked person, that doesn't mean you're the number 1 ranked person now. If you're undefeated and you pin the number 1 ranked wrestler, yes, it does. That's how rankings work. It's wins and losses and quality of win. I don't know how you don't become the number 1 ranked wrestler in that regard.
Because Orange Cassidy beating a bunch of people that nobody's ever heard of to become 15-2 or whatever it was to earn a championship title match made a lot of sense. When all of those wins, I think one of them happened on Dynamite. When I went back and looked, I think the last match he had on Dynamite when that happened was 3 months prior to that.
Right.
Stop it.
Right. And then someone, rebutting, saying that it's not UFC. And yet people say this shit happens in UFC all the time. Now, I don't know because I don't watch UFC. You follow it better than I do, but I remember seeing a video. Was it Chael Sonnen that you sent me a while back that explained how like someone got jumped randomly and it's just because they felt like that would draw more money, like stuff like that. Like, just go out and say it. Like, the rankings are for entertainment purposes only. That's all they are. They're for entertainment purposes only.
Orange Cassidy beat Chris Jericho twice. Yes, he did. And how did that work out for him?
But that was the year before. That didn't go into his rankings heading into that match for Double or Nothing. But all right. That's the thing. I mean, I just want to know how they come to the rank. Like in college football and in college basketball, we know it's a poll. In major league sports, it's win-loss record, regardless of how good or bad the teams you're playing are. I just want to know how the hell they come up with their damn ranking system, because they keep changing how it comes every freaking pay-per-view. It makes no sense. But regardless, with that said, Britt Baker's winning.
I agree. I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. I get it. Everybody's rooting for Ty Conti. She's so improved, all this stuff. I mean, even if she wins, What do they do with her title? I don't know.
Yeah.
Britt Baker is one of the most over women in pro wrestling right now, men or women, in my opinion. And Ty Conti, as bright as a future as she may have at some point, I just don't think she's at that point yet.
I agree.
So,
but yeah, I'm going with Britt Baker here. But let's go to the finals of the AEW World Title Eliminator. Miro versus Bryan Danielson. Now, during our little hiatus, Ralph, I put a community poll up there on who should, not who would, but who should win this match. And believe it or not, Miro ended up winning the poll as Mario Morales gave us a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Get yourself a big gulp, Mike. I try to, get sugar out of my diet, but Ralph gave me a couple donuts before the podcast today. So that might be why I'm all wild up, is the donuts that we had. Best donuts you'll ever have if you're ever in Connecticut. Blazing Fresh Donuts.
By the way, Michael,
what?
I've got to compliment you because I know your son is now 7 months?
6 months.
I got to tell you, when you came outside for me to hand you those donuts this morning, that dad bod is looking impressive. That is something to behold. I mean, that is really Will Ferrell would be jealous of that.
Listen, here's what we'll do. We have $10 in the chat revenue so far and 53 likes. If this video gets either $100 revenue or 100 likes, I will show everybody my dad bod. How about
God. Oh my God. Mass exodus of subscriptions at that point. On OnlyFans, folks.
Oh my God. Like, are guys even allowed to do OnlyFans, or is that just...
Yes, I believe. I don't know.
Maybe that's what we'll do. If it gets to 200, if it gets to $200 or 200 likes, I will start an OnlyFans so everyone could just pay to see my dad bod, and maybe I'll make a calendar for it. Squared Circle Psycho Babel College. But anyway, Miro versus Bryan Danielson. Miro won the poll that I put up there. Should Miro win this match?
Are you asking me?
Yes, I am.
Miro should absolutely 100% win this match. Now this is
even though he wasn't originally in the tournament.
Shit happens, Unfortunately, Moxley is well documented, And again, it's not like when we look at the rankings and we look at the position of Miro that this is something just kind of out of the ordinary. It's kind of like, as unfortunate as it was that Moxley had to leave to go and take care of himself. Miro's storyline weirdly kind of fits this whole thing perfectly.
It does.
Him really chasing a title, but and this is the crazy thing. I mean, like with Miro, I mean the stuff he's been doing. Granted, it's like pre-recorded stuff. It's like one of the things that I truly look forward to on a weekly basis. I think that if there's one guy that is really just hitting it out of the park on all levels right now, it's him. And I think that Bryan Danielson is very good. And then he's been positioned and booked really well and very strong since his time that he's been in AEW. But I think you got to strike while the iron's hot. And I think that you got to go with Miro here, because I think Miro is at a point where he can actually see the level of success that I think so many people have thought that he's capable of achieving at this point. He is really good in this role, and I think that they need to capitalize on that.
I totally agree. Like, one thing that people will like the anti-AEW fans, one thing that they always bring up is, they only bring in ex-WWE guys. That's the only way they can become popular, and Miro comes up as one of those guys. Another criticism that some people bring up is the fact that they sign these guys and they're not quite better than where they were in WWE. They're basically at the same level, or some of them might arguably could be worse. Miro, I think, is the exception. Miro right now has definitely been booked better in AEW than he ever was in WWE. And I'll even count the time he was US champion and came to WrestleMania in a tank. I will say he's been this God's favorite champion thing. is a complete 180 to the whole stupid arcade BS that he did with the best friends at Kip Sabian.
Yes. Yep.
Like, I almost forget that he was a part of that feud.
Thankfully.
Yeah. So I think what they need to do, I agree with you. They need to strike with the irons hot, but not to kind of tip my hand a little bit on our last match, but they need to have not only Miro win this match, but they need to have him beat Hangman Page in his first defense.
I agree. I do agree. And wrestling is very much like in the present. And that's why I said at the beginning of this recording, are they going to look to their future or are they going to look back to the past? Because, and I know we're going to have this conversation. I know Tony Khan made a little bit of a comment where he teased something. He's done this in the past, but everybody is assuming he is allegedly tipping his hand that Okada might be there tonight.
Right.
Now, there's one of two things that can happen. They can look to their future and they can say, okay, Miro, you're doing great. Hangman Page, you're doing great. You're our future. We are going to invest in you guys. You guys are going to be the guys that are going to carry this program for however many months, leading into either Hangman successfully defending against Miro or Miro realizing his goal of being God's champion and bring in Lana and just making for just a really, really good storyline. Or they're going to look to the past and try to capitalize on Okada and Omega. What would that be? 5?
Yes, it'd be
which
5.
I would argue we've seen it. It would speak to the really hardcore fan base, but I don't truly know how much it's going to do for AEW other than the one night that match might take place. And I think that they need to look to their future. And I think that starts with Miro going over Bryan Danielson tonight in a dominant fashion.
Yes. And I think it did not help Bryan Danielson's cause on Wednesday having a competitive match with Rocky Romero. I mean, it was a good match.
I mostly agree.
It was a good match, but as far as, you're going up against Miro, who has been a dominant force. What was it? I think 10 defenses as TNT champion. And, even from Eddie Kingston to Lance Archer, and he took care of them pretty quickly. I think Kingston was the first time he went over 10 minutes in a match when he had the TNT championship. So that's got to say something. And then obviously losing to Sammy Guevara with the whole neck thing. So obviously that's going to be a part of this match here is how Bryan Danielson, the technician, can work that neck of Miro. Yeah. And I think this is going to be a really good match. And personally, I think this is going to be match of the night.
This is honest God, this is probably the match I'm looking forward to most. I never in a million years would have ever, I didn't like Rusev in the WWE. I was really never into it just because I feel like that like the Russian, like dominant Russian or dominant foreign wrestler like that's been kind of played out. And I certainly didn't like Miro at the beginning of AEW with all the stuff he did with Kip Sabian, but I am truly, really invested in this character right now. And I think that they can do so much. I mean, if they truly do bring Lana in, they could still do the backstage segments with him where, just the stuff he's saying is so good. With her coming in, obviously, if she does what she did in the WWE, she'd be very good. It's everybody that, even will say, okay, well, why do they go out and get these guys from WWE? Think about all the time that Miro spent as Rusev. Like, these guys are TV ready. There's going to be very rare, like, growing pains. They know how to work the camera. They know how to cut promos. They know how to interact. They know how to react if there's a mishap in their matches. Like, they have legitimate years and years experience working in front of live audiences on TV, where you get guys that, whoever it may be that they're getting from the indie scene, or guys on the come up that just, they're not at that point yet. So I can't necessarily fault Tony Khan for going out and getting some of these guys and putting them immediately in these high profile feuds. It makes sense on so many different levels.
Right.
And I think that we definitely are going to see the best version of Miro in the next coming months.
I agree. And I think I don't want, he wins this tournament and then he's the first victim of Hangman Page's title reign. And while I think some people might say it doesn't necessarily hurt Miro with the loss, I think that kind of, as I quote this or coin this new term, Strowmanize him, where he could be a guy that they pull the trigger on. And when you think about it, Miro is such a good champion and Hangman is such a good chaser that you don't need Hangman to have a long title reign. I mean, look, like if you want him to be Austin-esque, think about Austin's title reigns. He had, I think, 6 world title reigns in WWF. And I think the longest one was like 100 days. He did not have the title that long. And The Rock was the same way. The Rock never had a long title reign. I mean, I don't know if it was because he was just a better chaser or just because he did a lot of hot potato with Mick Foley in that back and forth early 1999. But, you know, that's something you got to take into consideration. Let Hangman chase again. Like, he just got it. He's all excited. Then he's got to come to Miro, and Miro just humbles him.
Yeah. That's where I really do think that this should go and might go. You know, I know a lot of people I've been watching the comments. Oh, well, no, Kenny's going to win and there's going to be an immediate rematch on Dynamite. I mean, if we think about this, what's the story they're telling us, right? The story that they're telling us is that Hangman Page can't win the big match. Now, imagine Hangman Page winning the big match, beating Kenny Omega, going out on Dynamite, Miro literally coming out on Dynamite saying, I want to challenge you tonight, and him dominating Hangman. I know that some people may not like that, but imagine for the first time, I think maybe since AEW was formed, they'd have a real like dominant heel. Like not like Kenny Omega, like, okay, he's a really good wrestler, kind of like a chicken shit type of heel, like a true dominator. And that, I think that would do more for AEW because to your point, I think that Hangman is a really good chaser.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I hope that's the case. I hope that's where we end up with this, that Miro becomes the next AEW champion. And if it's Battle of the Belts or Revolution, whichever the case, I hope that's where they end up going with this.
Yep.
But I totally can't write off Bryan Danielson either, because if Bryan Danielson wins, then we're getting a rematch with Kenny Omega. And you got that storyline afterwards where they had that time limit draw. So now we need a definitive winner. And now the title just builds to that. I know people say that feud doesn't need the title, but man, it needs so much more when the title's involved.
Yeah. I definitely agree.
So with that said, Miro, Danielson, who you got?
Miro. I think Miro's going to win.
Over under 15 minutes.
Under. The last time I picked Miro for an under pick, I think the match went like double what I thought, but I think under.
You think he's going to dominate him?
I don't think he's going to dominate him. I think Bryan Danielson is going to get his usual spots and have a pretty big comeback, but I think that Bryan Danielson is going to have the traditional red welts all over his body tonight.
Right. No, I totally agree. But we're heading to the main event, Ralph. And as I mentioned a few minutes back, we're at 62 likes and $20 on the chat revenue for this. If we hit either $100 or 100 likes, Dad Bod's coming out. And I had a couple donuts before the show, so Dad Bod got a little extra daddier. So, you know, if you want to see Miro win the Eliminator tournament and eventually beat Hangman Page for the title, like this video. But let's head to the main event. I have a couple super chats that we'll get to after this, but Kenny Omega, Hangman Page. You know, the peak of this feud was on Halloween when Hangman Page came out as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Some people liked it. Some people hate it. Ralph, I know when we did our last video, I said something along the lines of, I can't wait for Jim Cornette to talk about it. And he was exactly what we said was going to happen. And Ralph, what are your thoughts heading into this night? Did they do enough to build this match as the main event of AEW Full Gear?
Yeah, I think they did. I think that the highlight of this whole feud has been that cowboy shit promo. I think that the storyline has been really good and linear and just kind of telling the fans, like, you know, the dynamic really is Kenny Omega is telling Hangman Page, you don't show up for big matches, you don't win the big game, you're not going to win this one, you're not going to beat me. And Hangman Page is essentially telling the fans and convincing himself that he is ready for this moment. And I think that the contract signing was good. Actually, credit to Kenny Omega, because I've knocked him a million times on the show because I don't think he's regularly a good promo. I actually thought he did really well on his part on Dynamite. I think that Hangman Page is really good on the mic. He's starting to show that he's very confident.
Yeah.
And whether this segment happened or not, I would have been invested in this match because I'm invested in Hangman Page. Back when I was a fan growing up, I was always invested in Stone Cold Steve Austin because I was invested in him and his character, no matter who he went up against. And I'm invested in Hangman. I'm looking forward to tonight's match. I think that he's going to win. I think that they got to do this. They got to look to their future. They got to strike while the iron's hot. Granted, credit given to Tony Khan because very few times can they lose momentum and regain it at the same time, and they did that with Hangman Page. He left for a little bit. He had his kid, and then he came back, and he's kind of right back where he should be. So credit to Tony Khan, credit to Hangman Page.
Yeah, and this really could have been derailed if Hangman didn't have that promo. Yes. If it was like somewhat decent or this whole thing unravels, and then you get Hangman Page is Strowmanized. But, I mean, Hangman Page has done a good job. They booked this very well. Even if you didn't like the Halloween match with everybody dressed up like Ghostbusters and the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, the actual interaction with Hangman was good. Do they use that as like the video package to hype up the show before the match? Maybe. I didn't watch Countdown to Full Gear last night, so I don't know how they did the video package for that, but it's not exactly the best visual to see Hangman as the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man attacking the Young Bucks is like his first interaction against the Elite in this storyline. But I think they've done a good job. And I think a lot of people are excited to finally see the culmination of Hangman Page as AEW World Champion, seeing that it's the pay-per-view that's named after his shtick, Full Gear, heading to his, was then supposed to be matched with Pac. I mean, I think now's the time to pull that trigger. And unless they're going to do Bryan Danielson versus Omega at Revolution for the title, you got to go with Hangman Page here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hangman, you got to. I just think they have to strike while the iron is hot. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that, like I said, I know they teased that Okada might come out tonight. I think that Omega as champion has kind of run its course a little bit, and I think they should go to their future, and I think the future's in Hangman, or at least Hangman or Miro.
Right. Now, I do know with Okada, obviously that's kind of a rumor going around with Okada, right. But there is a New Japan show tonight as well, so you have to take into consideration Okada's got to go from, I believe it's California, have his match, fly to Minneapolis, and then show up if they go that route. I mean, I don't know time zones or whatever. Maybe it happens. I doubt it, but definitely could be a question to ask. If Omega loses, what's next for Kenny Omega?
It's funny because I'm kind of reading through the comments and everybody's kind of commenting how I said that. I felt like if Hangman wins tonight, what would that do for Miro if, he were to go out there and dominate on Dynamite and beat him for the belt? It just kind of goes to show, like, if we want long-term storytelling, like, imagine if Hangman chased Miro for the title for X amount of months and beats him at the end of it. I don't know, but that's what I'm hoping happens, but we shall see.
Right. So I think, let's see, right now the poll, let's look at the poll right now. If I can pull up the chat really quick. 84% say Hangman Page walks out with the title tonight over Kenny Omega. Are you with the 84%, Ralph?
Yes, I am. Yeah, I think Hangman is and should win.
Yes, I agree. So, all right, we got some time left. We'll take about 15, 20 minutes to go over questions. If you want to submit a question, use the hashtag question in the live chat or donate to the Super Chat Party. You cut right in the front of the line. I know there's a couple here that I got to catch up with. So let's do that really quick. The first one is a $5 super chat donation. As soon as I can find it, where'd you go? Here it is from Rob's Pippin Road. He said, "Hope all is well with you and your guys. Great to have you back. Curious who both of your top 5 are that you're enjoying overall in wrestling at the moment. So it's not just AEW, anywhere in wrestling. Top 5.
Just like pure who we enjoy watching.
Yeah, just enjoy watching promos, wrestling skills, whatever.
Hangman is up there. Darby's up there. I would say Roman. Who else? Who do I like to watch? I mean, Bryan Danielson, of course. Adam Cole. I guess that would probably be my top 5. Walter doesn't wrestle nearly as much as he should. He would be up there. I go out of my way to watch anything he does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that would probably be the top 5 that at least, not saying they're the top 5 in the industry, just saying, and Miro, of course, I forgot.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could probably do a top 10, but off the top of my head, that's my top 5 or 7 or whatever I mentioned.
Right. I would go with number 5 is Joe Gacy. Number 4 is Toxic Attraction. Number 3 is Happy Corbin.
I thought you were being, because Toxic Attraction, you could honestly, legitimately say maybe that you're invested in.
No, Toxic Attraction actually is good. And Joe Gacy, like, I know a lot of people don't like the character, but Joe Gacy does it well. Like, it's not the best character, but he does it very well.
What about Braun Breaker?
You know, Braun Breaker toured with the WWE guys on the UK tour. The same one that Walter did. So, and Von Wagner was on SmackDown last night. So there's a lot of these NXT 2.0 guys automatically already getting their feet wet in the main roster in some way. But I like Braun Breaker. You definitely see he's a member of some family that WWE doesn't want you to know about. But I hear his promos and I'm like, that is Scott Steiner. And except he has coherent thoughts and actually knows how to use math. But I like Braun Breaker. And he's an example right now of a guy that doesn't need 20-minute long matches. He gets it. The dude just gets his character. And that match with Ciampa, where he basically took him to school because he's a seasoned veteran, it worked so perfectly. Braun Breaker definitely is a blue chipper, as Jim Ross would say.
I think so too.
Yeah, but as far as my real top 5, I would say, 5 is tough, but I would say Miro. I would say Darby. I'm excited. I like seeing Darby in matches. Roman. I would say even even the stuff with the New Day and the Usos have been pretty decent, but to pick 5, and I'll admit I haven't really watched outside of WWE or AEW in a while, but if I had to throw someone outside of it, AEW or WWE, maybe Richie Holiday or Alexander Hammerstone.
Danhausen.
Yeah, Danhausen. You can't go wrong with Okada or Tanahashi, those guys. That's a tough question. I think we need a little bit more time. I need a little bit more time. Maybe I'll make a YouTube short out of my top 5. But the next one here, that was a $4.99 donation. Let's see. Where'd it go? I know it was in here somewhere. It was Corey MacArthur. There he is. Corey MacArthur. He just said, "Love you guys. You rock. Listening and enjoying this live, Ralph and Michael." So thank you very much for that. And then I think we just got another one that just jumped in. Prime Killer with $5 Canadian. Could we see an invasion angle of former NXT wrestlers led by Adam Cole to get revenge on AEW for beating NXT in the Wednesday Night Wars? Knowing Tony Khan and how he likes to, use up those ratings and try to while up ratings wars, I could totally see it, especially if Kyle O'Reilly is actually leaving NXT and his contract runs out and he's signing with AEW. That's the first feud that comes out of this. Elite versus the Undisputed Era.
Yeah, actually, because we were just kind of talking about that before we started recording. If Kyle O'Reilly were to go to AEW, could we see the Undisputed, well, not the Undisputed Era, but, that group go against the Elite.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, all right, let's see if we got some questions here. I know they're coming in. Again, use the hashtag question. Try to get $100 on the chat revenue or 100 likes, and then we get to see Dad bod. We're at 2417 for chat revenue, 77 likes. Let's see. Our first question. Make sure you use the hashtag question because then I could actually see. Here we go. Aunt Tony, could CM Punk turn heel if Kingston defeats him? CM Punk as a heel could be huge for AEW.
Good. Punk's good in whatever he does.
He is. Like, I think he does better as a heel, but he doesn't necessarily have to be a heel. But on the other end, Kingston actually made fans boo CM Punk in that promo segment. So
True.
Definitely true. But next question. Does anyone know where they were going with turning Moxley heel? And was it something with Kingston? Possibly. He could have won the Eliminator tournament and give Hangman a heel to face as his first defense. But let's see. Who do you think will debut tonight, Ralph? I don't think this one is going to have any debuts. I really don't. Like, maybe some people think Bray Wyatt, but there's a report saying he's doing a Hollywood movie, and honestly, I think he does better in Hollywood than he would in AEW. Personally.
Hopefully not Adam Shear.
Oh, come on. We need Strowman in AEW.
Nah.
He'd be huge. Literally, because everyone's undersized in AEW. Just kidding, guys. Question here from Malik Murray. Let's see. It goes off the screen, but Michael and Ralph, the only person who should beat Hangman Page is MJF. He is ready to become world champion, and he is ready to hold the title. He is ready to become a main eventer. Not really a question, but I guess the question is, should MJF dethrone Hangman Page if Hangman wins the title tonight?
I was reading the super chats. I'm sorry.
So MJF, should he be the one that dethrones Hangman Page if Hangman wins?
I'd be fine with that.
Here's a good one and somewhat relevant. Mario Morales with a $5 donation to the Super Chat party with Survivor Series next weekend. Team AEW versus Team WWE. Who's on your team?
All right. WWE, I would probably have Roman, Drew, Big E, obviously. So there's your three.
You got Lashley. You got to throw Lashley in there.
Not on my team.
Really?
So what is it? 5-on-5, right?
5-on-5.
And the last two I'll put rated RKO because I like them. Team AEW.
You mean RK Bro?
RK Bro, that's it. I'm sorry.
Unless you want Edge in there, and then it's rated RK.
Rated RK Bro.
Okay.
Bro. Riddle and Orton.
So that's Team WWE. There. All right.
I'm gonna say for AEW, I would put MJF, Omega, Adam Cole, just for the simple fact that he defected, Bryan Danielson.
Because he defected too.
And Jungle Boy for shits and giggles. No. Darby. Let's say Darby.
All right.
And I would have MJF turn heel and defect to WWE because that's where I see him going in the future.
All right. For my team WWE, I'm going with Joe Gacy, Happy Corbin. No, just kidding. Just kidding. No, I would go with I'll put Walter in there. Walter's in there. I'm going with Roman. I'm going with Drew. I'm going with Lashley and Braun Breaker. Throw him out there.
Okay.
Braun Breaker's getting thrown out to the fishes against, I'll put, assuming he wasn't going to rehab, I'll put Moxley in there. I'm going to put MJF in there. I'm going to put Omega. And I'm going to put the best tag team in professional wrestling, FTR. And FTR and MJF are going to turn on AEW and join Team WWE. And Vince McMahon is going to win the invasion angle. He's going to hold his hands up. And that's how that match will end up. But next question here from Luis Rodriguez. Will Hangman Page kick out of the one-winged angel tonight?
Yes.
I mean, they had that little hint at the go-home angle where Omega had the better tag team partner, and that was a hint of Kota Ibushi, who I believe right now is the only person to kick out of the One Wing Angel. I could be wrong. Okada might have been too, but I'm going to say yes. And that's going to get a huge pop, possibly the biggest pop of the night. Who do you think referees that match, by the way? I know Paul Turner's been Omega's personal referee. Which,
yeah, probably, honestly, probably Aubrey Edwards?
Maybe it's Aubrey, but who knows? Next question comes from Andre Pacheco. I apologize if I mispronounce your names. Are there too many factions in AEW? I say no, because it helps get people on TV. You got to remember, the Attitude Era had so many damn factions. New Japan Pro Wrestling uses factions. Everyone has factions.
I think that there's probably too many factions, but it's not like they're trying to utilize all of them. Like the Matt Hardy brand, okay, they're kind of doing something. The Gun Club, like, remember they came out and like randomly beat up Big Show and were like, we're gonna take what we want from now on.
And then they haven't
seen him since. And it's funny because everybody's like, oh, everything gets built up in AEW, and it's like, not exactly, not always, not especially something like that. So
right,
no.
Yeah, I don't think there are, but we got another donation here. Obviously, it's going to come off the screen a little bit because it's a little long, but $10 to Rob from Rob Pippin Road. Thank you very much for your donation, dude. I think he did $5 before, so thank you very much, dude. Here's $10 towards hopefully that future video going a little deeper on your favorite now, and maybe now people are going in, and maybe even tapping into some of your favorite from the past eras you grew up enjoying. Can't wait for Full Gear. That might be a future video. Maybe we do like Fantasy Book and Survivor Series matches for next week, and like do like our favorite, 5 favorite of all time versus our 5 favorite now. That would be a fun episode. Yeah. I don't even care if it gets like no views, but that would be a fun one. If like this video at this point right now, if you want to see that kind of video, help us get to that 100 mark, so you guys can see my dad bod. Because that's all. I'm only doing this till we get the mark, so we can see my dad bod. But next question. I see Malachi Black as the next TNT champ. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I could see that.
Maybe. I could definitely see that too. Are there any other questions that are coming in? Last chance for questions, guys. Use the hashtag question so I could see it in the chat, and donate to the super chat party to cut that line. But any final thoughts before we head on out? If there's no more questions coming in, Ralph?
No really final thoughts. I'm just looking forward to the pay-per-view for sure. I think that there's a lot riding on tonight's pay-per-view, especially with the main event with Miro. I think those are the two things that I'm going to be paying attention to the most. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Someone's saying they sent 2 questions. Like, listen, I'm trying to go through this as fast as I can, and I might have skipped some stuff. So if you sent one, resend it, because it's hard to kind of go through. Shay, we go back and forth with him on Instagram. Tag Team Trios Championship in AEW, yes or no?
I would say no. Personal opinion. But
we've done this in the past. It's one of our higher viewed videos in the last few months, but Roman or Kenny in the last year?
I think Roman. And this is when people, because I know we have a very loyal AEW fan base, this is the way I always try and justify this. To me, Roman is doing the best work of his career. I think I've seen the best work of Kenny Omega in New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I think that if I were to start a promotion today, I would probably pick Roman Reigns as my number 1 draft pick.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, say what you want about the Tribal Chief. He doesn't have the matches that Kenny does. I think he's,
They're still very good matches.
They're still very good matches. And Kenny, I think character-wise is just not at that level. And while Roman's not at the same level as Kenny wrestling-wise, he's in there enough to say, I'm a main eventer in wrestling. But does Kip return and ruin Miro's title shot? I hope not.
Oh, God, no.
I hope not.
No.
I hope not.
Who the hell would want to see that? With where Miro is right now, I would not want to see it.
Right. Any chance Cody uses his heel turn to jump the line and take the title off of Hangman? That's a possibility. I hope that's not the case. but that's definitely possible. Your thoughts on NXT 2.0 so far?
Haven't watched a whole lot of it, but it's definitely geared towards what they want it to be geared towards, which is building up the younger guys to be TV ready for. Like they're obviously transitioning to younger generation, not so much the older indie darlings like Keith Lee and such.
Right. I think a lot of people give it a lot of crap because it's not what the old NXT was, and that's all these great independent style matches. But I got to say something. NXT 2.0 has the perfect format for a wrestling show. Raw should be doing it. SmackDown should be doing it. Rampage and Dynamite should be doing it too. And that is, unless you are the main event or a high-profile match, you don't go through commercials. Your match should not go through commercials. Bell to bell, in between commercials, done. We don't need to see a 20-minute match between Bryan Danielson and Rocky Romero, for example, that goes through a commercial break or a picture-in-picture. But if it's the main event, you want to go through a picture-in-picture, fine. I'm okay with that. Yep. But these, like every match having to go through one, and then you see sometimes on Raw or SmackDown, they go through 2 commercial breaks. It's like, enough. I like wrestling, but I don't need to see the damn match through 2 commercial breaks. That's why people don't get on TV, because they waste their time with a 20-minute match going through 2 commercial breaks. Enough. And then you got like the women's match in AEW that always has to go through picture-in-picture. How about just give them 8 minutes in between commercial breaks so you don't have the distraction of commercials? Why is this hard? Why is NXT 2.0 figure this out? I don't know.
Because Vince McMahon got more involved in it.
But he's involved in Raw and SmackDown.
I'm joking. That was the rumor.
Right. All right, next question here from David Scott. You need a major main event for Dynamite debut on TBS in January that you could promote for several weeks. What would it be? I think you got to go with Miro versus Hangman. That's got to be for the title. Is an easy one.
If you just what's the goal of it? Just to get as many people to watch it?
I would say so, yeah.
If that's the goal, then Punk and Danielson, I would guess.
That's a good one. Or you have the rematch. You have the rematch of maybe you do an Iron Man match, commercial free,
something like that.
Omega
Hangman
versus Danielson. That would be a good one. Although I don't know how people would do
Adam Cole and Omega, something like that. It would have to be. I know people don't like to say these things, but just for the guys that have been in WWE, they're going to captivate a larger audience because they've had the time to have more exposure to more people. So if that's the goal, get as many people to watch as possible, then any of those combinations.
Right. All right. Next question here. It seems they pivoted from Leo's heel turn as now Team Taz is involved. What do you think? I think I saw on social media Leo Rush, his grandmother passed away. So that's why he wasn't on this week. But Team
on
Taz
what?
On Rampage.
Oh,
he was supposed to be on Rampage.
Dynamite. Okay.
No, he was supposed to be on Rampage, but I guess his grandmother passed away, and that's why he wasn't. So now Dante Martin, I think, is feuding with Ricky Starks. Or at least they started a feud with that. I'll admit I didn't really watch Rampage before the live stream, so I'm not 100% on that. But I think that's the way they go. But Team Taz needs to be doing something other than feuding within Team Taz. And that's what it seems like they've done from the beginning. It's just this infinite loop of Team Taz feuds, and it's not good. I hope Dante Martin doesn't get sucked into like this infinite feud as well.
Well, remember when Punk was feuding with Team Taz? Again, another thing that, people conveniently kind of overlook when they say, oh, AEW doesn't just abruptly stop storylines. It's like, yes, sometimes they do. That's one of them.
But at least that one finished with a match of Hobbs and Punk, and they could always revisit it. But
I wanted to see Hook.
I don't think Hook's going to wrestle anytime soon.
That's what people wanted to see, Hook and Punk, no?
Well, that could happen, but maybe they want Hook to actually, I don't know, train before he's out there.
I'm joking.
All right. Let's see. What can Tony Khan do to elevate the women's division? Also, he needs to stop being defensive when people question him. 100% agree on Tony Khan needs to stop. He needs to get off social media. That's the first thing he needs to do. Like, it's one thing to be transparent and hype your promotion or whatever, but there's times where, like, dude, you sound like an immature teenager when things don't go your way or people criticize you. Like, shut up. As Eric Bischoff said it best, shut up and wrestle.
Yeah, I definitely agree to the second part of that comment. I feel like sometimes he's very unwilling to accept criticism. As for the first part, what does he need to do for women's wrestling? I don't know. Just continue to sign the top talent that he can get, the top women that he can get when they're available. You know, who knows? Maybe that will end up being Charlotte. I don't know. That's all he can really do. And just once he has the talent, provide the time on TV to allow them to wrestle. That's it.
Right. And now we reached 100 likes. So here's the dad bod, everyone. Here's the dad bod. There it is. 100 likes. Thanks, guys, for the 100 likes. Let's try to get $100 on the chat revenue too. And then I'll take the shirt back off just because I know people don't want to see this shit. But thanks, guys, for getting us to 100 likes. But to actually do the actual question, which is what does Tony Khan have to do to elevate the women's division? Stop putting them in picture-in-picture matches. Have Jade Cargill actually go for the title and not have Ty Conti skip the rankings. Have feuds that actually mean something on television outside of, like, the women's championship match had like no feud to it. Absolutely none. So you got to do shit like that. That's what I think. And I mean, just take a look at what NXT is still doing, even in NXT 2.0, and look at what, even since the draft, what Raw and SmackDown have done on their women's division. And yeah, you could say the Queen's tournament was only 25 minutes in total, but a lot of women are showcased now and have relevant storylines.
Yeah, I don't know. He'll give those opportunities as they present themselves to the individuals who have earned the time to be on TV. Like, I don't think they should just rush a bunch of women out onto Dynamite and give them more airtime if people aren't interested. Like, if they're not ready for it, that's doing more of a disservice to the company than it's helping anybody. So,
right.
Continue to sign top talent when they become free agents and just go from there.
Well, other than maybe Charlotte Flair, who could it be that they sign?
I mean, look, I'm just saying, like, I'm sure people would want to see like Becky Lynch and Britt Baker. I'm not saying Becky Lynch would ever go to AEW, but if she became a free agent, would Tony Khan try to sign her? Yes, of course he should. Charlotte, the same thing. Camille Brickhouse, she's a young up and comer. She was on AEW. Somebody like her who has a lot of potential. Jade, continue to push her.
Jade should be in this match. I'm sorry.
I know. We've gone over it, but
sorry. Someone said main events shouldn't have commercials. I mean, I agree, but if they're long enough that they have to take a commercial, that's the only match that's the exception. The other matches should not be going through commercial breaks. I'm sorry. Are you guys going to do a prediction show for Survivor Series next weekend? Listen, if you want it, we'll do it. I know a lot of people on this, our fan base typically likes more AEW based content, but we're not an AEW podcast. So if people want us to do a Survivor Series prediction show, why not? I mean, I think we end up making more money on the live chat than we ever would with ad revenue. So that's definitely an incentive to do a live show over just a pre-tape uploaded show. I mean, the build hasn't been great for Survivor Series. I know that, but I'm available next Saturday if you are, Ralph.
I'll do it. Daniel Price says we agree on something. Hell is frozen over. I've been watching his comments, so I actually agree with more than he thinks. So,
you know who I'm actually surprised that he hasn't been on this live chat, but I don't think he does. I think he only watches when we're taped or he watches the re-air. But for those that actually see our comment section, he goes by the name OG 1988, formerly Eco Crush. I'm shocked I haven't seen his name in here, but we go back and forth all the time. And like, there's times where, we don't see eye to eye, but there's been recently a lot of times where like, we're actually agreeing on shit. So maybe hell is freezing over.
Maybe.
But, what super heat donation would be needed for Michael to take a chop from Bryan Danielson? Ooh. Well, how many times did I take the chops when we did that one? Was that for Revolution?
I think it was, yeah.
It was for Revolution. I took like 13 chops, one for each super chat donation. I mean, if any video we ever did reaches, I don't even know how much it would cost for Bryan Danielson to make an appearance and just chop me once. That's how much it would take, but I'd have to look into that. That's a good question, but are you guys forgetting Ember Moon exists? She'll be free in that is true. Ember Moon is free, so she could be a good acquisition in the women's division as well. What's up? R-Truth. We already went through that one. This is actually the first live chat I've made. You always seem to miss start time. Always seem to miss start times, probably watching college football. Sometimes it's just because we do them at 10 in the morning usually, so people aren't waking up yet, but.
I see a comment here. Where is it? If AEW signs too many talent, it starts to have a WWE problem. I somewhat agree with that, and I actually would like to hear people make comments in the comment section. So let's say, for example, some top-tier talent became free agents. Kevin Owens, I guess, is one of those people. If Tony Khan decided to let some people go because they have too many people signed, how would people feel about that? Joey Janela's, the Librarian, people that they're not utilizing. Like, would people be pissed about that? Or are they going to hold Tony to the same standard that they hold WWE to, which is the mindset that, well, they make a lot of money, they need to employ everybody. And I'm not saying ethically it's right to do it during a pandemic and mess with them and all that type of stuff, because I know sometimes we'll like give them an extension and then release them. I'm just saying, like, if you're trying to let's say free up cap room, so to speak, to sign some top tier guys, how would people feel if Tony Khan decided to do that?
Mm-hmm. I'd say. Yeah, I totally agree. I'm trying to actually find the comment so I could put it on here, but I can't find it. But let's do a couple more questions, then we'll head on out. This is an interesting question, but what do you have for Indians watching your show? And that's people of India watching your show. You could get additional 1 million on every video if Indians like you. I mean, I think it doesn't matter where you're from. You get more views if people like your content. That's how YouTube works. I know some people bitch about the algorithms or whatever, but it's very simple. YouTube tells you what people want to see. If you do what they tell you people like, you get views. It doesn't matter where you're from. You could be from California, you could be from England, you could be from India. So I can't answer that question unless I actually dive into our analytics and actually see like what people from India watch from our show. And if we do more of that, then we'll get more of an Indian audience. I mean, I'm assuming you're from India. So why don't you tell us what you want to see, and then we could do it and try to test the Indian demographic. That's a weird, I mean, I don't know how else to answer that question, but how do you feel about Adam Pearce using Lashley to take down Dominic Mysterio and Adam Pearce feuding with Brock? Adam Pearce feuding with Brock. This is a dream match possibility of Brock versus Lashley.
I've been on board with Brock versus Lashley. I would want to see it now.
Totally agree. And I think maybe WrestleMania that comes unless they can't get The Rock to face Roman, and that's where the storyline's heading with Roman versus Brock at WrestleMania. But next question. Isn't it weird that 3 pillars of NXT like Malachi, Andrade, Cole are now in AEW, and possibly Keith Lee, Karrion Kross, Kevin Steen, and maybe even Johnny Gargano will be heading to AEW? No, it's not weird, because WWE has basically said, listen, the indie shit does not work for us. It works for AEW, so let the AEW take the indie darlings. We're going to build our Bond Breakers. We're going to build our Von Wagners. We're going to make our Joe Gacy's, our Aaliyahs. We're going to recreate Mandy Rose and have her with Gigi Dolan and what's her name? Janny Jane or whatever her name is.
Kelly.
Gigi Dolan's Priscilla Kelly, but I can't remember the other one's name. But like, this is what NXT 2.0 is. It's just basically NXT going back to what worked in the Attitude Era. The guys that were TV ready and those that weren't TV ready, they built from literally nothing. You know, that's all it is. That's what they need to go to. Do you guys think AEW should sign Zack Sabre Jr.?
Nope.
I think it'd be interesting. I think he might get kind of lost with some of the American audience just because they're not quite in tune with British politics. So him going against Boris Johnson on, his rants or whatever, but you could do the same with whatever president he goes on. How you guys doing? Sorry about your loss, Mike. What's up, Ralph? Shay, thank you very much for the condolences and the thoughts, man. Doing pretty well. Everyone's been pretty strong here on the home front with the loss. So, and let's see, we got one more question here. Let's see. I'll try to pick a good one to close out the show. If Bryan beats Miro, does Hangman still retain?
I think Omega retain.
I think he means Omega retains. If Bryan beats Miro, does Omega retain?
Mm-hmm.
I say yes, because that's going to start the feud to Revolution and the rematch for the title.
I would probably reluctantly say yes to.
I agree. But all right, guys, I thank you all for joining us here on the Squared Circle Psychobabble. It's been fun. It's been great. Thank you all those that like this video, getting it to over 100 likes and getting us to see a little bit of dad bod. Also thanks to everybody that donated to the Super Chat party. Unfortunately, the thing is not showing up for me for whatever reason, but thank you guys. I know Mario did. I know Zonin did. I know Pippin did. And if I missed you guys, I apologize. But thank you very much for the donations to the Super Chat party. Don't forget, you could also get merchandise available. 10% off SCPB10 in the link in the description. And, of course, enjoy Full Gear. If you haven't ordered the pay-per-view yet, we have a link to Fight TV to order that for our international friends, and that's an affiliate link to help promote this channel. For everyone here at the Squared Circle Psychobabble, my name is Michael Valenti. That's Ralph Valenti. Thank you for watching the Squared Circle Psychobabble.